Hey, this is Patricia, and as always, I'm excited to share another video creating a layout with Altenew stamps and inks. I was inspired by the Altenew blog and the card design team. So, what I did is I printed off my photo and then used a pencil to trace that photo to create a frame. I'm using watercolor paper here because I'm going to use a lot of water when I stamp with these images. I'm using the vintage stamp set. It's one of my favorite stamp sets. And I'm choosing images that are solid. And I'm just going to go around and place those around the frame. And I have more concentrated, larger stamp images to the left because in the upper right corner of the photo is what is the focus of the photo. So I want that part to be a little bit more visible, and I can kind of cover up a little bit of the bottom left photo. So I'm just going to place these around as many of the solid images as I can pick from this particular stamp set. And then using the largest acrylic block from Altenew, I'm going to pick up as many of those images that I can to go ahead and stamp at once. So I can't get all of them, so I'm going to get mostly the bottom half, which is good because I need to fill in a little bit more of the frame anyway. So this is a good start. I'm going to go ahead and ink this up with some gray ink. I don't want too much of a tone-on-tone type color. I really want to have some contrast with the water and playing with the watercolors here. So what I'm going to do is I ink this up, and then I'm going to use a bottle filled with water and mist that really well, and then stamp that onto my penciled frame. And I got it really nice and watery, and at first I thought I got it a little too watery, but it ended up being perfect. I like how it came out. So now I can use more of those stamps to fill in the top and the side of the frame. And I will do the same thing. I'll pick them all up, ink them up at the same time, spray them with water, and go ahead and stamp them. Now I noticed when I stamped this, and this is really kind of a cool feature from this ink, I'll have all the products listed and linked on the Altenew blog. But when I water it down and I stamp it, I noticed some green, and I thought maybe I had some green on my stamps or green on the paper, but I knew that I didn't. And what it is it's from the gray ink. It kind of changed color just a little bit, and I like that look that it gave. Now on the larger flower here, I'm going to use two of the stamps that you can layer with, and I'm going to use a contrasting color. So I inked it up and I wet it again to stamp it. But for the outside layer, I'm going to use the jet black ink and just stamp that as is. For the leaves, I tried to use a soft lilac color, and it was a little too soft, but you can kind of see it a little bit. It really didn't do as well as I thought it would do with this. So what I did is I ended up going back over that with the same coral berry color. And then later you'll see I ended up wanting it to be black so that it would pop a little bit. So I just stamped right over that. But for now, I'm just going to show you how I matched up all of the next layer stamp for each of the flowers. And I went around and stamped them all in the same coral berry color. I have to say there's something that's very relaxing and enjoyable about stamping like this, especially with the layers and getting the unique looks that you can get from this. They're realistic and they're artistic, and especially with a little bit of the watery, colory look, it's very artistic looking. So I'm just going to go around, and like I said, it does take time, but it's a very enjoyable process to do. Now, when I do the little final on the smaller flowers with the little center, I did not use the exact same one for each flower because this was really more of a artistic look to it. I used the same center, so I just went around to each flower and used the same acrylic stamp for each one of those. And it really makes a difference to add that that little center to it, especially with the black ink. It really needed the black ink all the way around to really add a little bit more color and a little bit more contrast. So you can see there a little bit ago that I had re-stamped those leaves in the black ink. And here I'm stamping the center of each one of those flowers with the same acrylic stamp. The only flower that I did change it up was these little smaller ones. They have their own different type of center, and I did want to use the center for those. Now I'm going to erase that pencil line that I drew my frame, and I'm going to fussy cut this all out. And then I use my scissors to just fussy cut the inside as well. The scissors give me a little bit better control over cutting rather than using a craft knife for the inside, but you could definitely start off the center by cutting with the craft knife. I just used my scissors to poke a hole and then just started cutting around it. So I've adhered my photo to this beautiful birchwood cardstock. It's gorgeous, and I was wanting to cut it up and do some more creative things with it, but you know, the simplicity of it was just gorgeous. I couldn't do anything else with it. I really wanted it to have a lot of white space. So with this beautiful frame now that I've created, I've pop dotted that with foam adhesive, and I did some additional stamping and die cutting of the same flowers and leaves to tuck under it to create a little bit more layers. And then for this last little flower, I used foam adhesive to pop that up. Later on, I did move that down to the bottom of the layout. But right now, I want to go ahead and add my title, and I'm using a sentiment from the Painted Butterflies stamp set. And I'm using the same gray ink, and I tested this first on another piece of the birchwood cardstock just to make sure that it would stamp well and not bleed too much, because sometimes on wood paper like this it will bleed too much and it's really hard to see. There might be just a tiny bit of bleeding, but there's not much. It really stamped beautifully. So now I'm just going to add a few little embellishments to coordinate with the colors and the style of the layout. I'm going to keep it pretty simple, and I'm just going to add these little word stickers that go along with my title. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you stop by the Altenew blog to see more details and the products that I used on this.